Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Ron Suskind joins us again today to discuss his explosive new book, The Way of the World, a story of truth and hope in an age of extremism. Suskind reports that in 2003, the White House ordered the CIA to forge and disseminate false intelligence documents linking al-Qaeda and Iraq. The CIA allegedly forged a letter from the head of Iraqi intelligence to Saddam Hussein. It was backdated July 1st, 2001, and stated 9/11 ringleader Mohammed Atta was trained for his mission in Iraq. While much of the attention on the book is focused on the forged letter, Suskind also reveals that the Bush administration and the British government knew prior to the war that Iraq had no weapons of mass destruction.
Ron Suskind interviewed Richard Dearlove, the former head of MI6, Britain's secret intelligence service. Dearlove said Britain received intelligence in the beginning of 2003 about Iraq's lack of WMDs, but the Bush administration buried the information. Dearlove told Suskind, quote, "The problem was the Cheney crowd was in too much of a hurry, really. Bush never resisted them quite strongly enough." Ron Suskind joins us again here in our Firehouse studio. We're also joined on the phone by Congressmember John Conyers, the chair of the House Judiciary Committee. Congressman Conyers has said his committee will review some of the explosive findings in Suskind's new book, The Way of the World. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! For those listeners and viewers who didn't get a chance to hear you lay out the allegations, Ron, well, first, many people wrote in through the day, and we're going to be reading some of their questions to you. But why don't you lay out the kernel of the key allegation you have made about this letter?
The Iraq intelligence chief is a one-year saga. Let's start in January of 2003. The United States and Britain get together. They open a secret back channel to this man. He slips out of Baghdad, meets with a British intelligence official in Amman, Jordan. The information flows up through the White House. They're the real customer here. And he says from the start there are no WMD. He, of course, has real credibility here. As the Iraq intelligence chief, the #1 man, he oversees the biological program himself, and he said it's over. He also said the mind of Saddam Hussein is something you all don't understand. He's really afraid of the Iranians and their nascent nuclear program. He doesn't want them and others in the region to see that he's a toothless tiger, that he has no weapons. He doesn't even believe the United States would ever want Iraq. All of this ends up being made very public later. It's all briefed right up to the White House, to the president, starting in January of 2003. The final report's delivered in February. At that point, we cut off the channel to Haboush, but of course we already have an arrangement with him, the United States. We resettle him in Amman, Jordan. As the summer unfolds, it becomes clear to the world the things that Haboush told us ahead of time. We pay him $5 million, the United States. We hide him, and then the letter in the fall of 2003, when the White House is facing the most serious charge of the Bush presidency, that we went to war under false pretenses. They come up with a plan of how they might use Haboush, the White House. They order the CIA to have a fabricated letter created ostensibly in Haboush's hand, backdated July 2001, solving all the White House's political problems. As one of the key on-the-record sources says, it was a check the box for all the problems politically the White House was facing in the United States. That, of course, is illegal. You cannot have the CIA run disinformation campaigns on the American public. Just imagine the havoc that would ensue if that were not a law. That's why right now Congress is investigating.
And the information, though, that he provided initially, obviously British intelligence, as you say, was involved, so this would have an impact on the knowledge that Tony Blair and the British government as well had about the reality of whether Saddam had weapons of mass destruction.
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting because in the extensive interviews with both Richard Dearlove, who was the head of British intelligence in this period, now he's at Cambridge University, and Nigel Inkster, who was the #2 British intelligence chief, they talk about the fact that this was in a way sort of a last chance for the British. They didn't want to go to war with the ardor that the Americans did, as Dearlove's comment reveals, and they said, let's exercise real intelligence. As Dearlove says, we're better at this than you people. We have relationships where you often have none. Let's try to exercise the known and the knowable here so that we can bring at least some clarity to this debate, which, of course, the British understood was gusty, full of assumption, without real evidence. That's why the meeting with Habush was set up.
Our first question from listener and viewer that has been emailed into us was, have you actually seen this letter? And you have said $5 million was the money that the U.S. government paid to Habush as hush money. How exactly do you know this?
There are extensive conversations with people inside of CIA, again, many of them on the record in the book, not just about the $5 million, but about when the payment was made, about how the figure was arrived at, discussions, again, with senior officials on the record, sort of saying $5 million figures where in the broad context. After all, we paid the guy who turned in Khalid Sheikh Mohammed $25 million. And so they discuss with some openness how we arrived at the $5 million figure. It was not and is not in dispute.
Well, we also have Congressman John Conyers, chair of the House Judiciary Committee, with us. And Congressman Conyers, you have been looking at a lot of issues dealing with the Bush administration. To what degree does these revelations, if they prove to be true, will affect the outcome of your investigations?
Well, that's what we're investigating now. Top of the morning to three excellent investigative reporters.
Good morning to you, sir.
It's going to have a great effect. That's why I'm investigating.
Can you talk, Ron Suskind, about what it would mean for Congress to investigate? We now know the House Judiciary Committee, Chairman Conyers, is talking about investigating. The Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. What were you able to gather? What could they gather?
The fact is, the book, as readers now around the country know, lays this out letter and verse with great clarity. Again, with on-the-record sources, and a great number of off-the-record sources as well were helpful in the overall project. What you can see now, I think, is Congress having an opportunity to exercise some of its constitutional mandates, which has been very difficult during the history of this administration, as Chairman Conyers and certainly even more people on the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence know. They have not been briefed on key issues, as well as key issues in and around this matter of Habush. You know, the fact is that the administration has consistently undercut Congress's role of oversight, which of course is statutory in its clarity and its legal strength to oversee what the administration does, especially in matters of secrecy. This is all set up very, very carefully. So Congress will be briefed so they'll know what's happening, so we don't have essentially a secret foreign policy carried forward by any president. This is an opportunity for them to finally exercise essentially their obligations in Congress. For instance, there are many things laid out in the book that the administration has not in any way either commented on or denied. They're focusing on this specific letter because it means illegality, which could, go right up to impeachment hearings, ostensibly, in the next couple of months. However, this Habush matter, from beginning to end, is an extraordinary array. For instance, Congress simply now should be saying, tell us exactly why the entire Habush report from British intelligence to the CIA and brief to the president, what is the justification for that being secret at this juncture? You know, time and again, the administration basically says, everything that's classified is classified, and frankly, we have to give you no reason why. Those even involved inside of the administration say that process of classification is woefully broken. The fact is that for all this period of classification, from the concept starting, the line between national security, which is what it's supposed to be about, and national embarrassment has been one that people in administrations have tried to draw. Because they said if it's not justifiably national security, someone should really be looking at that. And if it is a matter of national embarrassment, it should be revealed. This is clearly in the category of national embarrassment and not national security, the entire Habush mission, now that it's public.
Can you go through your conversations with Dearlove, the head of MI6, telling him that you didn't have this letter, but you knew of this letter?
Well, when I get to Richard Dearlove, as I point out in the book, I first, just simply knowing about Habush, Haboosh, our secret source, has been kept quiet for 5 years as essentially, you know, the most portentous secret that the United States is holding. When I first see Richard Dearlove, I know about the mission with the Iraq intelligence chief, and he's shocked that I know.
He had the playing cards, wasn't he, that they gave out to soldiers in Iraq?
He's the jack of diamonds, I guess, which would befit his financial arrangement.